Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is BGG bringing you the Straight Talk radio call for Thursday, September 24th. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Real quick before we get going, and by the way, I have a very special guest here with me, Mr. White. Haven't had him on for a while, and it's going to be an honor and a privilege to have him here with us. But before we get going, I want to make sure I thank all of our chat copiers, our moderators, all the people who make Dinar Updates the website that it is. We really appreciate you guys. All the members who tune in regularly. We couldn't do it without you. We want to make sure we thank all of our partners out there in the community that support us and advertise our calls, Dinar Recaps, Dinar Detectives, IQD calls. Anybody else who's told a friend about us or forwarded an email, we appreciate that as well. Make sure you are on the deuce list, Dinar Updates Currency Exchange list. If you're not, you can go to the blog, the Observer, or the forum. That's dinarupdates.com, dinarupdates.com/observer, or dinarupdates.com/blog. On the right-hand side, there's a gray box. First, last name, email address, click Add Me, and you're in. If you have a problem with that or having a little trouble getting in or you're not getting our emails regularly, send an email to duresponse@comcast.net, and we'll see if we can't get you added in there. Once in a while, for whatever reason, it's technology and it glitches out here and there. We have tons and tons and tons of people on there, but every once in a while somebody doesn't get, for whatever reason, there's a problem. So we work very hard to make sure everybody can stay on that list. Follow us. You can follow us on Twitter @Dinar Updates. That is one of the quickest ways to stay tuned to the most up-to-date Middle Eastern news that there is, and you can also follow along our blogs. Mr. White, it's been a long time since we've talked. Great to have you on. Appreciate you taking your time out. You and I were just talking before we got on here how busy everybody is, and it's just exhausting. So I really appreciate you taking time for people. I know that they're going to really enjoy hearing from you. What do you think's going on? What's up?
Well, first of all, Mr. BGG, thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your call. I do appreciate it. But what do I think's going on? I think they've been building this cake for a couple of years here, and I think they're putting icing on it and putting the candles on it, getting ready to light it. And the reason I think that is not because of some guru has told me that, or I read it on some blog site. It's because they've told us. They've told us over and over and over. And I think we sort of, it's easy for us to forget what they've told us. And when I'm asked what's going on and, hey, why isn't something happening, I just try to remind people, hey, you know what? Have we forgotten all of the hoopla when we read that the governor of the central bank said he had gotten the green light? Have we forgotten when a member of the board of directors who the governor works for told us that certain denominations are printed and that they were going to have a value of thousands of times greater? I mean, these are things that, they're doing it because, like they said, they're going to add value to the currency. And there's just no other way of getting around it. And I can also mention to you the reason why I believe this is another gentleman that has many, many years into the financial and the banking industry told me, said, if it was Iraq's intent to continue living on the dollar, they wouldn't have to do anything. All of these reforms, all of this changing in the banking system would not be needed because the dollar is already accepted worldwide. They wouldn't have to clean up corruption. They wouldn't have to do anything. They could just take their petrodollars and just continue on. But instead,
that's an important point because for whatever reason, and I haven't even bothered to speculate about this. My point is, I hammered on over and over and over. World Bank and IMF told them they had to do this before October 1st, and they did. They met that deadline. Mm-hmm. Whatever is associated with that deadline, I don't even go near that. But your guy there who makes that point, he's exactly right. That's a pretty heavy point too, by the way. That essentially, if they wanted to continue robbing the country blind and just using U.S. dollars, they wouldn't have to change a thing. They just keep going on like they're going on.
Yeah, and another point about adding value. Purchasing power. If you're standing outside of a Walmart and you've got $10 and somebody walks up to you and says, "Give me that $10, I'm going to give you another $10 bill." And they say to you, "This $10 bill has greater purchasing power." And you walk into Walmart and none of the prices have changed. Do you have any additional purchasing power? No. So it isn't that they're going to give them a piece of paper with numbers on it. That does not give them purchasing power. It's being able to buy more with that piece of paper. And the only way they can buy more is if the prices in all of their little shops and coffee shops and wherever they buy the stuff are reduced. And the only way, economics 101, the only way that stuff's going to go down is if what is buying it increases dramatically in value. And the dollar is not going to increase dramatically in value. Something else is going to have to increase dramatically in value in order to get those prices down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to change. And you know what? Listen, and I have said this all along since October of last year, purchasing power is their only way out of this mess.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there really isn't any other. I mean, you can look at it 100 different ways, and I've drawn out every mathematical case there is for it. The only way that they're going to long-term, because it doesn't look like, listen, according to all the oil experts, it doesn't look like oil is going to go way back up to $80 a barrel or any of that anytime soon. As a matter of fact, if it's, now with Iran and Iraq both kind of join in the mix, essentially in the last 12 months, and the next 12 months, if anything happens, they're going to add add to the supply, which makes
supply's not going down.
Right, supply's going way up. Matter of fact, especially if Saudi Arabia stays as mad at Iran as they are, I mean, this could get really bad. So and I say all that to say this is it doesn't low oil prices don't help Iraq at all. That's not a ticket to their that's not a way out for them. So ultimately, adding value is their primary way out of their budget conundrum for the moment.
And you can also.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm waiting for you.
You can also dial up what the Prime Minister told the world one particular weekend in Davos, Switzerland, at the World Economic Forum. He made some very bold statements about Iraq joining the World Economic Community. 2 weeks later in Berlin, upon leaving, after making the same statement, say, "Hey, look, we have certain issues. We know we have certain issues." So it wasn't like he made the statement and then later he has a problem with ISIS. He's right in the middle of the problem with ISIS. They're trying to right the ship and so forth. And he says, "We're gonna meet our challenges, and we will join the World Economic Community on this stage." And on leaving, he said, "I will remove all the remaining impediments to investors."
Well, and I think it's going to be very curious what he's going to have to say while he's here. On the basically 4 or 5 days he's going to be here, and that may be a moot point anyway. A couple of things that I do want to address, and this is kind of a couple of comments directed towards the audience so that everybody knows. I made some comments during a late night chat the other night that got, and as per usual, or an afternoon chat or whatever. I don't remember what time of the day it was, but the various Dinar Guru websites out there picked it up and kind of tweaked it around and made it sound like what they wanted to make it sound like.
It went through the solar system. They're looking at it on Mars right now.
Right. I mean, and it got tweaked around, and it's essentially by the time they got done, BGG says it's going to happen by the 24th. I did not say that. And the only reason I even mentioned any of that information was that it was primarily based on the progress they make on this corruption. And that was purely what the comment was about. I hear all kinds of crazy rumors all the time. I passed that one along. I was clear. Let me be clear. This is not my opinion. It's only something I've heard. In fact, the only reason I bothered to mention it was based on them dealing with more of this corruption. Then they would move ahead per this source. Do I believe any of it? I think that they're dealing with the corruption. That's how much of that I believe. Now, the first week of October, I would like to get a good look at exactly how much forward progress a body has made, and then I can decide how much weight to put on this information. But I don't think it's, again, I didn't bring that up for any reason other than to highlight the corruption part of it, because I think that's exactly, personally, my opinion as of right now, right where we're at, corruption. It's all about the corruption. It's all about how they're dealing with these bad actors, and they, that's exactly what the World Bank and the IMF wanted. They wanted them to pass this anti-money laundering law and deal with the corruption.
You think about
Iran doesn't, obviously General Qasem Soleimani and Iran are a little bit peeved about the situation, but ultimately Abadi's going to have to make his choice. Is he going to be an Iranian puppet like Maliki, or is he going to actually open up Iraq and do business with the rest of the world? If he's going to do business with the rest of the world, he can't act like an Iranian agent. He's going to have to get out there and do the right thing for the people, and that is exactly, there have been some articles recently, kind of saying, hey, is Abadi really all that? Is he going to get this done? I think he will. I think he's shown that he will. And I think he's, I think he probably has to placate everybody for just a little while yet. But I really think, listen, you would not pick this fight with Maliki if you didn't think you had the horsepower to finish it off, because it's almost guaranteed. And if you couldn't finish this deal, you got to know that how it ends. It ends badly for him. So I think he knows that he can win this, and that's why he's started down this path.
Yeah, I think he's got the backing, like you said. He's not out there by himself.
He's got the backing of Sistani, and he's got the backing of vast numbers of everyday people.
Mm-hmm. But I do agree with you. I think corruption is a huge thing, and at the time I didn't think about this, but now I'm thinking about being on the stage with, or being on the stage by himself, and in the audience there are the movers and shakers of the world economies sitting in front of them. They're from Japan, they're from Singapore, they're from Germany, of course, they're in Berlin, that's Germany, France, the UK, Canada, the United States, and on around the globe. And if he, besides having a new banking system and being on the SWIFT and all that stuff, but how in the world could anybody think that they could join that community and not have a handle on the corruption? I mean, yeah, people say corruption takes place everywhere. However, if there's corruption in Germany, you're probably going to go to prison. You're not going to be able to walk the streets and day after day, year after year, and load off your corruption. So I do think this is as significant as upgrading and bringing their banking system into the 21st century because
well, if you think about it, this gang has probably stolen about 3 times what the CBI's reserves are over a 10-year period.
Wow.
I mean, I would suspect that's probably the real number. They talk about a $50 billion being the number. $50 billion is not the number. It's so much worse than that. And the real number, the number that they probably have on hand, the 3 times number, that doesn't count the whole breadth of the theft. I mean, there have been other estimates that are vastly higher than that. Essentially there was enough corruption and enough theft that they could have rebuilt every square inch of Iraq brand spanking new from the ground.
Several times over.
Yeah, just every square inch. So, I think that it's high time that this corruption gets dealt with, and it looks like they're gonna move right forward on that.
You may be surprised that they're going to recover a good deal of it too.
Mm-hmm. Not impossible. So that's the watchword for today. Corruption, how they're going to deal with it. Got a lot of big meetings coming up here in the next couple of days. So shortly after the feast, which will be over on the 28th.
I think I saw something where the Prime Minister Abadi is going to be the lead-off speaker at the UN concerning terrorism.
Wow.
So we may need to find out, on that website, the UN website, when that is.
Uh-huh. I really don't expect, unless they do something beforehand, kind of kick things off and big hoopla. Mm-hmm. I really don't expect a lot between now and at least the 28th or 29th. I just think it's going to be quiet. They're doing their shindig thing between now and then. Not impossible that something couldn't happen, but I think you're going to hear it just mainly between now and the 20th, just a lot of rhetoric, a lot of back and forth, and not necessarily, and none of it really is bad or good. Going to hear Maliki's people unload. He and Alawi are just playing a media game of Twister, tweaking themselves up, trying to figure out how that they can get out of this getting fired situation. I don't know that there is a way out for them. So, what do you think the outlook is? What's your outlook?
I think every day it just becomes more critical. It's they've got to do something with their currency. They've told us they're going to do something with their currency, but they're getting to a point where they're going to start working the numbers for next year, and they haven't resolved this year's numbers yet.
Yeah, they got to be out of money. They got to be just stone cold slap out of money right now. Mm-hmm. They're what is this? September 24th. I mean,
yeah.
I was thinking 30 or 60 days ago they'd be hitting the red line, but man, they're up against it right now. So
and remember, the infrastructure or the investment line items from 2014 were rolled over to this year's budget. And for those folks that don't understand, you have an operational side to the budget, which a dinar is a dinar. It's how you pay your dog catcher, police officers, school teachers, and so forth. On the investment side of the budget, that is when you're dealing with purchases or exchanging services outside of the country. That is when it becomes critical with how you are paying for those things. And I always go back to an example that was in the 2014 budget. It was a power plant, a 360 euro, the euro currency power plant.
360 billion?
Yeah, 360 billion. Okay. That was rolled over to this year. I don't believe anything's been done with it. I don't think anything's been done with any of those investment line items because they can't pay for them. They can't pay for it at 1166, and they don't have enough dollars just to take care of the operational side.
Right. And that's my point. It's right now I'm generally optimistic. I think they've got a lot of problems, but if they're going to use added value to fix their short-term problem, they got to do it fairly soon. They're running right up on September 24th. There's none of this year left. So this year's budget is, and that's the deal. They're just screaming for money. They're in deep hurts for money. These few little loans that they're going to get from the UN and IMF, that's not even close.
Oh, that's nothing.
Not even close to what they got.
They're just treading water. That's just to keep them up.
And all the banks in London told them very plainly, we're not opposed to loaning you money, but it can't go into your operational budget. You just, no banker in his right mind is going to loan you money because you're spending too much money.
Right. Right. You can't borrow yourself out of debt.
Exactly. So, if they plan on using added value to work their way out of this thing, or if a stopgap or whatever it is they're planning on doing, they need to do it fairly soon. So they're going to have to deal with this corruption. And I wonder if they're not going to drop hammer on this stuff around October 1st.
Well, the first set of reforms, was a few weeks ago, 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. There was no lead up to that. All of a sudden, bam.
Yeah. And there was on the blog today that I had left up is that Abadi is apparently announcing new measures. He's announcing some new harsher measures, and that kind of flies in the face of some of these recent articles that were written about Abadi being that Abadi wasn't going to do that. Apparently, he did. He might have told Qasem Soleimani he wasn't gonna. Then yesterday he turned around and said he would, which, by the way, is not out of character for him. He wouldn't even return phone calls to Al Jabouri for 48 hours before he announced these reforms, and that's what's got everybody a little bit tweaked off at him, is that he was kind of an equal opportunity offender in that program. He kicked out the Sunnis, he kicked out some Kurds, and he fired Maliki too. So anybody who's caught with their fingers in the pie is going to get them hacked, whacked, pinched.
I believe he's Abadi's being counseled and helped along the way, guided, because I remember probably 9 months ago, Secretary of State John Kerry was doing an interview, and it was about Iraq and Iraq putting together this current government. And the conversation was with Massoud, and he was having to make a pick. And the easy road would have picked Maliki, avoid all conflict. And he was told, if I got this right, because I'm just going from memory hearing this, and I think Secretary of State Kerry told him, says, it's a tough choice, but either Iraq's going to die on the vine, or it's going to have a new beginning, and you've got to be strong in doing this. You got to do what you believe is the right thing, and it's pretty obvious what the right thing is. And that's after that, it's when Abadi was basically his election results were verified as being legit, and that's what we have now. And I think going through this stuff, arresting a former prime minister and arresting a bunch of other former leaders of your country for corruption, that's it's tough. The first step is tough, but once you do it, good things come. And I believe he's probably being helped along the way.
I think he's got a lot more support than people realize. So anyway, those are the reforms we're looking for. Appreciate everybody for tuning in this afternoon. Stay tuned to DinarUpdates.com. We'll continue to bring you more news. Dinar News, Dinar Info, and Dinar Commentary as we're able. Tune in for Roundtable tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and Million Days News Time at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.